So let's talk to Ed O'Keefe right now, because, Ed, we were talking about how high stakes this first round of voting would be, Ed. And, we know that who is watching is President-elect Donald Trump, and that's where you are at West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
You've talked to the members of the Trump administration. What do you think they are thinking at this hour?
Well, first of all, Reed, let's keep cameras on the House floor again. I'll talk while we watch that. But we had anticipated, we know that the president.
Ed, I'm going to have you repeat that. When we went to that camera, we lost your mic for a second. I want to hear everything that you had to say. Do we have Ed back? We got Ed now. Go ahead, Ed.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
Okay. Hear me now, but let's keep it on the House floor if we can, because that's where the drama is. We know that the president-elect has been making calls to potential holdouts and is said to be watching this pretty closely. In the last few minutes, he's been posting things on his Truth Social account about completely unrelated matters, more about things that the Biden administration appears to be doing to irk him. We can get into that later, but we know that he was expected to watch this closely, and his team is likely in close contact with the Johnson team right now as we watch this play out here. Now, they haven't officially ended this round one of voting, so they're waiting here for some indication of what exactly they should do. Remember, the magic number you need is 218 votes to win the speakership. Neither Speaker Johnson nor House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries have that. But you could see over the course of this how, just by virtue of the math in the alphabet, Jeffries at times had more votes than Johnson. That's fine. It's reflective of how closely divided the Republicans and Democrats are. What do we have? A 4 or 5 seat difference.
Right.
Even narrower than that for a few weeks or months here to come, as various Republicans get picked off to serve in the Trump administration and some vacancies sit there for several weeks or months. So it just is a good reminder today of how perilously closely divided our Congress is, and how on big votes, whether it's picking a speaker or whether it's on big legislation at some point in the coming weeks or months, it could be nail biters all over, all the time, to the point where you got no nail left to bite. And it may eventually cause Republicans to have to go to Democrats to get votes, which is something most Republicans don't want to have to do when they have total control of Washington. And the other thing to remember here as you watch this, why does this matter? What's the holdup? What's the significance of this? Constitutionally, nothing else can happen in the House of Representatives until they pick a speaker. So they will not adjourn. They will not be able to hold or deal with other matters unless or until that happens. Could it happen later this afternoon? Sure. Could it go on longer? We'll have to wait and see. Have we seen things like this before in recent history? You bet we have. We saw it, of course, when Speaker McCarthy was being ousted and they were trying to come up with someone new. So this is reflective of the modern day chaos and difficulty in organizing the Republican conference. And as we watch here, and as you see the Speaker conferring with his aides and with some of his closest congressional lawmaker allies, other members of Republican leadership there. One thing to appreciate as we watch this read, and I know you guys especially can appreciate this as we bring in video feeds all day long, is on days like today, when there is no one essentially yet officially in charge of Congress or of the House, they allow in reporters with extra camera angles to let us see these sort of, furrowed brows and whispered moments between lawmakers that only otherwise reporters in the room or observers up in the gallery can normally see. These camera angles will probably go away once the House is formally organized, but it gives us these better reactions and understanding of what's going on the floor while we have them here. So you can see there the Speaker getting some back slaps, some handshakes, and clearly not terribly pleased with what's transpired here, somewhat exasperated looking, trying to figure out what they got to do next as this continues. And you can see there, sitting down there at the edge of the left screen, Steve Scalise, of course, the presumed majority leader, waiting to see what exactly they decide to do. Fellow Louisianan there, of course, as is Johnson. So we're waiting for indications. This is kind of like when the refs looking under the hood at the replay, and we're all waiting for the game to continue. We're at that moment right now where we're waiting for the game to continue. And we're just going to have to wait and see what they decide to do, whether they keep this round open and twist some arms, or whether they have to go to a second round. And meanwhile, on the other side of the chamber, Democrats just sit there on their hands.
Right.
Because they're all voting in unison for Hakeem Jeffries. And they got a bit of I told you so going on right now, because they warned voters about this. They said, you give it back to Republicans, they won't be able to organize themselves, they won't be able to decide when to go to lunch. And that's what's transpiring here, at least in the early moments of the 119th session of your U.S. Congress.
And such an energy change, Ed, from that nominating speech where you heard the applause for Mike Johnson, and now it's almost like hitting the brakes on that energy. And how will Republicans regain that oomph and that momentum from that nominating speech will remain to be seen, as you say, in the hours ahead. Now, we also harken back to the fact that Speaker Johnson went into those chambers feeling very confident, conveying and broadcasting to the world a feeling that they would be able to get this done, and that he felt like this was going to be confident. And he said, and he punctuated, "I have made no deals, and I'm very proud of that." You are reporting not very far away from the president-elect, who is known as the deal maker. I can only imagine that President-elect Donald Trump is making some calls saying, get the deal done. Can we expect to see some deals now at least being discussed at a minimum?
Hard to know, Reed, because there were reports that, for example, he was speaking earlier today with a congressman named Chip Roy, who represents parts of central Texas around Austin, former chief of staff to Ted Cruz, the senator, who's been a real holdout with Republican leadership, no matter who it's been in recent years, because he's one of those fiscal conservatives who wants to see big spending cuts anytime more spending is enacted. And the reports suggested that the president-elect and Congressman Roy were discussing things. Roy was warning Trump that he had concerns about Johnson's management of the chamber. Perhaps no better example of that than what's going on right now, because if he had a good grasp on things, this wouldn't be happening. But we'll see here whether there is some concession given to him or to those others that are holding out, or whether they just try to keep going and eventually force the others, by virtue of time and the growing attention and pressure, to change their minds. I know our colleagues Nicole Killian and Torian Small are there in the Capitol, may have more information. The problem and the intrigue and the sort of old school charming nature of today is that it all has to happen right there on the floor of the House. And it can't necessarily happen quite yet. If it happens at all this afternoon out in the hallways or in the conference rooms down in the basement where they have those caucus meetings. And so we've really just got to keep our eyes trained on the House floor here to see what exactly they decide to do next. So, you know, if you're just joining us, this is continuing coverage of round one of trying to pick a speaker, and so far they haven't been able to do that. And we will continue to monitor here what exactly Speaker Johnson, there in the glasses, moving towards the well of the House chamber, decides to do next.
All right, and there it looks like he is going
This would
to
signal, Reed, watch this, Reed, he's leaving.
Yeah.
Or he may be headed for the exits, which would suggest he's going to try to confer with his aides about what exactly to do next. He appears to be headed.
Yep, you took the words out of my
to
mouth.
One of the cloakrooms. So that's one of the.
Yep, there he goes. And now he's going where cameras are not. And that could be a choice that is made in a very deliberate way. Ed O'Keefe, stay with us here. We're going to continue the conversation, especially from the purview and the perspective of the president-elect watching this very closely.